Hi, this is TJ with Piano Clubhouse. I'm going to show you today chords for the key of B flat. This video is for people who are not familiar with the key of B flat and who want to get a real brief introduction on the chords for that key. So, without further ado, let's get started. The key of B flat has two accidentals, B flat and E flat. So, the notes in this B flat scale are B flat, C, D, E flat, and then the rest are white keys, F, G, and A, and then we're back to B, B flat, okay? All the chords I'm going to show you today are going to strictly have those notes in it from the B flat scale. Of course, when we can get into advanced chords in some other videos, and I can show you lots of other chords that will incorporate notes outside of that B flat scale, but just to keep it simple and as an introduction to this key, we're just going to involve those 7 notes: B flat, C, D, E flat, F, G, and A. Okay, so let's get started. The right hand is what I'm going to show you today is literally probably 3 chords. I'm going to show you 3 chords that we're going to use throughout the entire key of B flat. The first chord is your B flat 1 chord. It's your B flat major triad, which is B flat, D, and F. To my 1 chords, I love to add this second note of the scale. It helps us to add a little bit more character to your chord. So now my 1 chord is B flat, C, D, and F. Or you can use your pinky to hit this F, whichever way you're most comfortable with, okay? So that's your B flat major 1 chord. The next chord I'm going to show you is what we call our 4 chord. It is an E flat major chord, and it's made up of B flat, E flat, and G. And just like the 1 chord, I like to add a 4th note to it to make it sound a little bit more fuller. In this instance, I'm adding the D. Okay, so now my 4 chord is B flat, D, E flat, and G. Okay, so here's our 1 chord with that added note. Here's our 4 chord with that added D. Next, I'm going to show you the 5 chord. It is A, C, and F. Okay? And if you want, you can add this octave A if you can reach it, but not necessary. Okay? And lastly, I'm going to show you a variation of this 1 chord, which is what I call the 2-5-1 chord, because it uses the 2nd note of the scale, the 5th note of the scale, and the 1st note of the scale, which is all notes that are in the 1 chord I showed you. I think in the 1 chord I also added this D. But for the 2-5-1, we're playing the 2-5-1, but we're playing it in that order from left to right. So it's the 2nd note of the scale, the 5th note of the scale, and the 1st note of the scale. Thus the 2-5-1 in that order. If I would have done this way, it'd be the 1-2-5 chord, but it's not. I call it the 2-5-1 because it's 2nd note, 5th note, and the 1st note of the scale. Because the notes are spread out more as opposed to down this way, with them being spread out that way, it sounds more fuller. It sounds better in lots of instances to play this instead of this 1 chord. Okay, so they're actually interchangeable in lots of places, this 2-5-1 or this 1 chord. So those are the 3 basic chords I'm going to show you. 1 chord, 4 chord with that added D, 5 chord, and the 2-5-1. Alright? Next, let's look at the left hand. The left hand, we're just gonna go through every note in the B flat scale. And for each one of those 7 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then of course it starts over again. For each one of those bass notes, I'm going to show you which one of those 3 chords I showed you in the right hand goes with that bass note. Okay, this will be a good way to get practicing. So let's start with the B flat. The right hand's going to play just the 1 chord. Remember to add that C. When the left hand goes up to C, right hand is going to play a 4 chord. When the left hand goes to D, you can go to the 1 chord again. And remember, 1 chords are interchangeable with the 2-5-1. So either way you can practice doing either one. Let's go to the next one. For E flat, right hand goes to the 4 chord. For F, right hand goes to the 5 chord. When the left hand goes to G, bring the right hand back to a 1 chord. When the left hand goes to A, let's go back to that 5 chord. And then we're back to B flat, which is the 1 chord. What I recommend you doing is get a piece of paper or a notepad, write down the left hand notes. B flat, C, and write this down the left hand side of the paper. B flat, then C, then D, then E flat, F, G, and A. And next to each one of those letter names, write down the right hand chord. Next to the B flat, write 1 chord. Next to the C, write 4 chord. Next to the D, write 1 chord. Next to the E flat, write 4 chord. Next to the F, write 1 chord. I'm sorry, next to the F you write 5 chord. Next to the G, write 1 chord. Next to the A, write 5 chord. And next to B flat, write the 1 chord. Write those down. That's going to be the basis of this lesson, is working on those chords in those combinations, and getting used to that. So to practice that, you just go up the scale, and we'll just practice it now, kind of with a little bit of rhythm, with the tempo. Excuse me. And just watch how my right hand moves around those 3 chords, paired up with the left hand as I just told you. B flat, the 1 chord, 4 chord. I'm going to do the 2-5-1 here. You can substitute it. And 4 chord over E flat, 4 chord over F, 1 chord over G, 5 chord over A, and back to the B flat. One more time, speed it up a little bit. Okay, now let's try the same thing going backwards. Same pairs of notes. A little bit faster. Okay. So, those are your basic chords that go with each of the corresponding left hand bass notes. Now, once you got that down,